Since Pro Tools is not strictly an audio for video post-production application, it isn't automatically configured for the kind of work we'll be doing on film sound. So I want to go over some settings and ways to manipulate the window views in Pro Tools so the look and functionality will be better suited for our needs in this course. So first, let's open up Pro Tools. By default, you'll get this Quick Start dialog. Let's choose Create Blank Session. For parameters here, we'll choose Broadcast Wave, 48 kHz, 16-bit. That's the audiophile standard for video, and it's the format the files will be working in. For I/O settings, let's choose Stereo Mix. When you hit OK, you'll be prompted to name and save a new session. We'll name it my.template, and I'll save it here on the desktop. When the session opens, we're brought into the Pro Tools Edit window. This is where we'll be doing most of our work in this course. It's where you can see the timeline and all of your tracks. First of all, let's clear up these timeline rulers at the top of the Edit window. There's some here that we won't need. There's a lot pertaining to music stuff we won't be dealing with. So to get rid of them, you can Option-click on the timeline rulers we don't need. Let's remove all of them except for minutes and seconds, timecode, and markers. Alternatively, you can go into the pull-down menu here to uncheck them. Now the currently highlighted time ruler is minutes and seconds. This is your master time ruler. But we want to change our master time ruler to timecode so we can reference video frames as we work. To change this, we'll go into the main counter up here, and we'll change the main counter to timecode. Next, let's make a few tracks. Let's use the key command Shift, Command, and N. It's a 3-button key command, and this lets you make new tracks. It'd be good to memorize this, but if not, you can also go to Track, New to create new tracks. Let's go ahead and make 12 new mono audio tracks. Next, let's change the editing mode in the upper left corner of Pro Tools to Grid. This keeps our cursor accurate to the frame boundaries. Then we want to change our grid value up here to reference frames instead of seconds. That way we can make the Pro Tools background grid accurate to the frame instead of a second. You can always go to slip mode later to go to finer resolution, all the way down to the sample level, which is a much finer resolution than you can get in most video editing softwares. Now we want to show some more views in our tracks. So go to the Edit Window View selector on the top left of the Edit window. Let's show our inserts A through E, since we'll be using real-time plugin inserts later on. Also here, let's show the I/O so we can see our volume and pan parameters for each track as we work. We'll also change the way our track solo buttons work. The solo button lets you hear one track at a time and effectively mutes all other tracks, so you can single out any specific track. By default, Pro Tools allows you to latch more than one of these together, so you can solo more than one track. This is fine, but for post-production audio, I've found it's better to only be able to solo one track at a time, so we can compare what's on one track to another track. So let's change that in Options, Solo Mode, XOR. Again, this lets us just solo one track at a time by a single click. It's a much faster way to isolate your tracks. Finally, we'll take a glance at the central hub of all your settings for each session. It's called the Session Setup window. You can find it in the Setup pull-down menu, Session. Here we're able to see all the parameters of our current session. As you can see here, we're referencing a timecode frame rate of 30 frames per second. It's good to know we can come here at any time to glance at all of our session settings and change parameters like the frame rate to accommodate different video formats we might be working with. These new settings we just changed fall into the global category. They're not session specific, so that means every session we open from here on out should look like this and keep these settings as we progress. Let's go ahead and save and close this My Template session.